Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is June the 9th, 2022, 696. It is 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar, 1443 on the ancient moon calendar, and 1442 on the ancient sun calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American, consular court action. I am sovereign living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitalism nationall, in red ink, in proprio persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the sovereign living justices in capitalism nationall, in red ink, in proprio persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are the ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the de jure, ancient, original, indigenous, natural, divine, Empire State of Morocco. We are the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. We are peace, we are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, none pro tempore. If you'll notice, I wrote that out in common English. We're going to talk about why that is, and we'll go from there on some things that we're adding to our repertoire of tools, okay? Now that we have taken control of our own capitalism, that is a must. We had to do that. So let's see. Just one moment. Okay. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to show you with regard to our next steps forward strategically, especially with regard to the economic issues that we have overcome and how we're going to strategically proceed forward. We have to know the principles of what took place so that we will know what to do coming up. So if you will notice, on the screen, I put an excerpt from the corporate fraudulent corporate court and an action that was taken by the fraudulent corporate court. And this was a while back. We've talked about these demonstrations that we've done with regard to this, these actions here. And I wanted to show you the changes that are taking place as we step forward and do what we need to do in terms of our own capitalism. So if you'll notice on the screen, it says there, City of Federal Way is the plaintiff. And again, this is going to be, these are some keys in terms of how our courts are proceeding and how we get things done the way that we know we can because we have the authority to do it. So if you'll notice, it says City of Federal Way as the plaintiff. Here up at the top, it says Federal Way Municipal, and then it says Court of Washington, County of King. Now, that's 4 different entities right there. That's 4 different entities. One is Federal Way Municipal. That's one entity in all capital letters. Court of Washington is another entity. County of King is a 3rd entity. And City of Federal Way is a 4th entity. Okay? So when we did this demonstration back, this one is it's a conglomeration of the one that was done in 2017 where we did the POW demonstration in 2017. And then we did another POW demonstration about a year and a half ago. And City of Federal Way, what did we do after we did these demonstrations and we saw these fraudulent documents, manifest? When we saw these documents manifest, we did what we always do when we are subduing corpses and corporations, putting them in their place, and then manifesting the living entities, which are subject to the Moors. So what did we do? We placed a lien, a Universal Commercial Code 1 lien affidavit, because we don't fill out their documents, we don't fill out their forms. We do affidavits. We speak by affidavit. We lien them, this fraudulent entity calling itself City of Federal Way, because that's not the land. And once we lien them, we did a court action on them. And everything that we do by court action. Our liens are court actions also. And then what did we do? We did fiduciary affidavits, and we did a reversion of estate on this land. And then we said, okay, what do we call this land? We call this land Federal Way City. And so over the last 2 or 3 or 4 calls, we've shown you how we changed, how we liened all of these numbers right here, these numbers, number 7Z07, whatever that is, 1A0250975. We liened all of this when we did the lien on on City of Federal Way, because that's a corporate covering over the real Federal Way City. Federal Way City. Anything, okay, let me go back. Anything that says like State of Washington, City of Federal Way, Court of Washington, County of King, those are all corporations, okay? And so when we lien these corporations, then we call it what it really is. We said, okay, this is City of Federal Way. We did some actions on it. We did a reversion of estate on the land. And then we created our merchant card that says right here, and we showed you this a couple of weeks back, Federal Way City. Okay? And the cause of action, that's where this 1A0250975 came from. Is these numbers right here are fraudulent when they're issued by a corporation, because this is a corporation attempting to appear to govern. And corporations cannot govern. We have to govern. So once we lien all of the agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof, that included these numbers in black ink. And it included City of Federal Way and all of these agents and principals and things right here. So once we did that, we created this merchant card because we have a $100 million lien on those corpses. And then we said, okay, corpses, you're decapitated. You're removed from office, because they never really had an office, but they were pretending to have an office. Why? Because the Moors were not governing publicly like we should have, okay, publicly. We never stopped governing. Let's make that clear. Moors, we've never stopped governing. Even in our sleep, we were still autographing things and signing things, and they were taking those things and creating whatever fraudulent means and methods they were creating. So we were still in command and in control then. We just didn't know it. So now we know that we're in control. We know that we're governing. So then I was doing some more research and looking at, okay, you know, the next steps, because we're taking it step by step by step as the ancestors show us things, we continue to move forward. So then I started looking at the capitalism, and I started looking back and seeing what information could I find out, because in preparation for the next demonstration that I'm going to do, and we'll talk about that next demonstration. We introduced it briefly on our last call. We'll talk a little bit about it on this call also. So when I started looking back and digging through, remember, there's a difference between City of Federal Way Corporation, corpse, that dead thing, and Federal Way City. And as I was looking through, the ancestors did what they always do. They showed us in the past where this really was Federal Way City. So we were looking, and we just decided to get some facts and just look around and Google some things. And we looked at www.census.gov, and we pulled up, you know, we just put in Federal Way, Washington, just to see what would come up. And sure enough, you know, as you know, the census things go way back. And it didn't pull up City of Federal Way. It did not pull that up. It pulled up what we have on our merchant card, Federal Way City. And the word city is in all lowercase letters. Okay? And we'll put here, I'll go ahead and put the link to this so that you can see where we looked and what we're talking about, so that if you want to look anything up with regard to where you are, you can do that. So we're putting the link to this site in the chat, and we'll also put it under this video at Like to Jure on YouTube, so that you can look up whatever you want to look up there as well. So we see now, and we have affirmation that what we did was correct in saying, no, it's not City of Federal Way, because that's a corporation. Because the word of, when they use it, the word of means without. And so it was, whenever corpses and corporations speak, they say state without Washington, or city without Federal Way. That's what they're saying, because they know we're Federal Way, we're Washington, we're America, we're Al-Marak, we're Morocco, we're all the state, we're everything. We are the all. And they are simply a corporation without us. That's really what they're saying when they say state of Washington, city of Federal Way, court of county of King, and all of those things. They're not courts, they're not states, they're not cities, they're none of that. They're just paper. And the rest of the earth calls them a paper tiger. A paper tiger. That's what they call them openly. And as it turns out, that's true. So Federal Way City, Washington, we found out, you know, and then we looked, and there's a population and all of that, you know. And so our merchant card, now let's talk now about things like jurisdictions where employment is concerned, because we introduced that last time. So Whenever Moors are in their territory, are at their territory, and they're looking around at employment, and you say, okay, there's something open here at, let's just use city of Los Angeles. We'll just use that as an example. City of Los Angeles or county of Los Angeles. If there are, if they're showing job listings, quote unquote, then what we would do is, instead of saying City of Los Angeles, we would get the documents that we have. We would lean the City of Los Angeles, because that's just a corporation that they put over the real Los Angeles city. Because then when you start going back and looking at the record about like Los Angeles from its beginnings, it's going to say Los Angeles City. It's not going to say City of Los Angeles. When I looked up that corporation that was doing business as City of Federal Way, it went back to maybe the 90s or something, maybe the 80s, I don't know. I don't even remember exactly, but I know it wasn't, in other words, a lot of us have been living a lot longer than these corporations were even in existence. There are people here that domicile in this territory who have been here longer than the City of Federal Way Corporation previously, that was previously doing business. And so they know that things changed, and then they started getting tax bills and property bills and pulled over and courts popping up that have nothing to do with it. Okay. But then when they look back in the records at where they really are, they're at Federal Way City, which is a real city. That's the real city that we, the Moors, are. That's where we are. You know, the ones that are here, that's where we are. We're at Federal Way City. And they already, the corpses knew this, and they knew that as we proclaimed it on the public record, the ancestors would show us where, yep, you're right about that. You passed that test. You know, the naming test, you passed it. Because that's what our ancestors called this place, Federal Way City. And in reality, this place, even before that, was Washington. It was called Washington City. And we saw that in some homesteading documents from the, I believe it was and of course it was after 1871, I believe. But so Moors, as we move forward, where jobs and employment is concerned, we don't get employment, for example, at City of Los Angeles. We get employment at Los Angeles City. So when you see a job listing or an employment listing, you have to put everything in its proper place in order for your documentation to make sense. Your documentation will make sense. It won't fit into a dead corpse place, because those places don't really exist. The Moors do what they do on the land. We do what we do on the land. And Federal Way City is land. It's not a corpse. And even they know that. You can see how they put it on the screen. They know that Federal Way City, they put city in all lowercase letters. So this really is, just as we stated before, it's Federal Way. And then, you know, it is a city because that's what we say it is. And then we did our merchant card, and as it turns out, our merchant card matched what was way back then, which is where census numbers came from. Okay. So having said that, you may have noticed that as we're coming back here expressing that we're on the land, because we've always been on the land. If you will notice, some of you may have noticed that this letterhead has a new addition to it, and it's in blue. This letterhead right here is commercial letterhead. It's commercial. So as we move into commerce now, our letterhead that's in red and all lowercase letters, that has to be on the public record first, because that says we know we're on the land, and it matches our flag, okay? So the documents that we put on the public record, that must be out there first. It has to be. So that as we move into these other sectors on the vast estate, that there's no mistaking who we are, okay? So this is commercial. And as you'll see here, as we put the constitutions and the county charters, but mainly the constitutions from the different territories. This is Washington. So there is a star on this banner for Washington. Let me show you some justification for that being there. We know that everything that we have seen thus far is a hypothecation. It's a that's why some people didn't realize that a change was taking place throughout history as we were going to sleep and the corpses were doing what they were doing. Some people didn't realize that Federal Way City had become City of Federal Way, or was pretending to be City of Federal Way Corporation. Some people didn't realize that switch had happened because they were so similar. So now, with regard to the similarities, here's another similarity. Okay, we see here, right, it's similar, Empress, but not the same. And that's why our eyes had to be open to this. Because, or else people would think we're black when we're not even black, we're Moors. It seems similar when you hear them speak, but it's not the same. And Moor does not mean black, contrary to some beliefs. Moor does not mean black. It doesn't. Okay? Moor means, it is a nationality, it's a bloodline. Moor is a people. It's not a color. It's not a status. Not like that. Not like some people saying black is a status. That's not. No. Moor is the status. That's the only status there really is. Everything else is, 14th Amendment. And again, Moors are everywhere, all over. Whether you're wearing a fez or no fez, turban or no turban, feathers or no feathers. If you have this bloodline and birthright, you're a Moor. You're a Moor. What you call yourself is up to you, because you're also a sovereign Moor. And Moor and sovereign mean the same thing too. So the hypothecation of the whole earth had to do with Moors. That's why no matter where you go, you're going to hear about Moors. You didn't hear about Moors here very often because we're the primogenitors. And all we had to do was wake up and say, yep, we're Moors. And the rest of the earth will say, yep, we're Moors too. So, yes, Justice Frank says in the chat, black means pale with white spots. Yes, and pale also means cadaver, which means corpse or dead body. Look up the word cadaver, and we looked that up and showed you that a couple of weeks back, that when you look up the word cadaver, which is a dead body, it says pale. The dictionary said that. So the hypothecation was very similar. They made things look really similar so that if you're asleep and you wake up, if you're asleep, you don't really realize that a change has taken place. You just know that all of a sudden you're starting to get property tax bills and people talking about collecting things and taking things, and you're like, wait a minute, how are things being taken? We've been here for millennia. Because they made things look similar, but it's not the same. So on the left of the screen here, this is corporate Morocco circa 1956 flag. It has black around the star, black. They chose that for a reason, okay? And the star seems intertwined within itself. It's not continuous, as it were. There's blockages here, lines here. So this line is not continuous because it has something, it has two lines going that way, and so on and so forth. Whereas the ancient Moroccan flag is a continuous, it does not have a black border. And we pointed this out 3 years ago. Okay? So that's one of those where if you're asleep, or if you're a fraud trying to be a fraud, then you're going to push it off. And if people point it out, you'll be like, oh, no, that's just, it's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's just, that's a minor, it's a minor detail. We don't even pay attention to minor details. That's a lie. We watch. More, we watch. We have to watch. That's why what we're doing is so important. All law is specific. And the reason it's specific is because of these minor little things that try to slip in. It's the small foxes that spoil the vine. Or a variation, yes. Let me show you another one. On the back of the Federal Reserve debt note, yes, they had a pyramid on the back of it, but the eye was separate from its base. The eye was separate from its base. There is no separation with us. None whatsoever. Yes, Justice Frank says what starts in fraud stays in fraud. That's how we know that that's not that. See, those Moors who were paying attention to the fiat, they knew not to use that because it indicates a separation, a division, and there's no division with the Moors. Our eyes are connected to our body. We can see. And so the pyramid went from what it is on the right to what it says here, what it is here on the left. The one on the left is fraud. The one on the right is correct. Connected. And then they called this the Great Seal, but the Great Seal is one, it's one, it's connected. There's no division with the Great Seal, the real Great Seal. Okay. And now let me show you, because we're talking about what's in the letterhead here. The third is the banner. The difference between the banner of amity and commerce and the banner for amity and commerce. Here's our Prophet Noble Jew Ali and his beautiful consort. And if you'll notice here, when I looked at this photo, I noticed several things about the photo. But here I noticed that the pentagram was upside down. And I wondered about that. I asked the ancestors why, why is it upside down? And they said because we were in distress at the time. So whenever you see the banner of amity and commerce, they always have it twisted like vertical, upside down, or upside down, flipped, and all of this. It's always in some weird position on their uniforms and things like that. Just one moment. So we know that, again, everything that they did it to hypothecate and to pretend to be the Moors, just like, you know, we won't even mention that because it's not important. So, again, our flag on here on this photo is the pentagram is upside down because our nation was in distress and our prophet was trying to assist with that. And according to flag protocols, when a nation is in distress or something, it's reflected in the way they fly their flag. And so the banner for amity and commerce was starting to take over, but whenever we flew it, it looked like it does right here on this photo. The banner was in its rightful place here. It's the banner for amity and commerce. Let me prove that also. If you'll notice here on this photo, our prophet is holding it the very same way. The stars are heading forward instead of being after the stripe. Okay, so he knew, our prophet knew, that our nation was in distress at the time. And I won't say distress, but a lot of Moors were asleep and trying not to go to sleep or not to stay asleep. Okay. And so when our prophet is holding our banner for amity and commerce, he always has the stars the other way. And what does that mean? Okay, we'll tell you what that means, but I did a little more digging. And as I was looking through the land patents that are on the record prior to 1871, because we know in 1871, that's when the banner flipped to what we have been seeing and what people have been, quote unquote, pledging allegiance to and all of that. The banner flipped. But when you look at the land patents, because that's what we told them to come and do, is survey the land, measure the temple, and record what you measure. The banner is the way that it's supposed to be, with the stars first when you're talking about land. But just like when the actor Obama was pretending to be president, whenever you look at like the hats and the, you know, people had Obama hats and jackets, you know, and I was asleep at the time, so I had them too. But then as I started to wake up, I looked back at them, and he always, on all of his stuff, he knew that the United States Corporation Company was in trouble. So whenever he showed that banner of amity and commerce, it always had, it looked like it had fallen. And someone was maybe, it looked like it was falling towards the floor, so it would be wrinkled up, or like it is here, like this one on the screen has ruffles in it, like it's supposed to look like it's waving in the wind, but it's not. It's in distress. Okay? Because when it's not in distress, it's straight out standing like it should. Okay? But again, this is what the flag looked like, the banner for amity and commerce looked like back in, this is a land patent from 1855, right here. The issue date here is on the screen. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's the issue date right there. November 8th, 1855. Okay? So then I said, okay, well, you know, what does that mean when we see it looking like that? The reason why this information is coming out now is because we have conquered the land piece. We've shown that we know that red writing and all lowercase letters is the land. And then we've also shown that we know about admiralty being blue. So we have the L and we have the W, the land and the sea, the water. We're buoyant. We know what we're doing in terms of commerce, admiralty commerce in our documents. We know that our documents are correct with regard to that. So now we had to conquer the air. What does air have to do with this banner right here? Well, this is what it means. And it's very typical of what's happening. We call it reversion of the state. But they say that the backwards flag, and they're calling it backwards just like the pyramid was upside down, supposedly. The backwards flag is actually part of the U.S. flag code, which applies to spacecraft, aircraft, and even service members' uniform insignia. It says, according to United States Army regulations, the full color U.S. flag cloth replica is worn so that the star field faces forward. They're admitting that it was backward. It faces forward or to the flag's own right. In other words, it's adding an element of sovereignty to the flag, that the stars are to the flag's own right. Those words were chosen for a reason. Okay? Because they knew that once we realized how that worked, and once we got land and sea, that the air is next. Land, air, and water is law, L-A-W. So even by this definition, they're admitting that the stars that the stars should be forward, like they are here at the top of our letterhead when we're doing commerce in the right manner. So this is actually how we designed it, the original banner for Amity and Commerce, to reflect the 50 constitutions that we're putting on the public record for the 50 territories. And now we, yes, Justice Frank, we have the sky also. We have the air, the space, because there is an element in our sovereign jurisdiction that says that planes cannot even fly over our airspace without our permission. Yes, Empress Chitara says land, air, and water is jurisdiction. Yes, we have the jurisdiction, and we are to take. That was our job. We were to come and take dominion over all. That includes the air. So that as we move forward, when we travel, our identification is honored, because Moors have been having issues with that. Some Moors have. There are plenty of Moors who travel with their Moorish IDs and have no problem flying, etc., because they're going to demonstrate regardless. Okay. All Moorish IDs shall be honored. Shall be honored. That's a command. We're not asking. Okay, that's a command. And so that is why we have this banner for Amity and Commerce, because the constitutions that we put on the public record, which is represented by the stars that are on this banner for Amity and Commerce, says that we have the authority to do commerce everywhere. All over our land, we can do commerce. And if you remember, when the foreigners pretended to go to the moon, what was the thing that they did, supposedly, when they pretended to go? They planted a banner of amity and commerce trying to claim something, right? They were trying to claim space so that the spiritual and extraterrestrial property of ours would have to deal with that. But we got this. We got this. Yes, they were, but we got this. That was acting. They were just acting, just showing us what we are to do as we move forward. Yes, we're going to the moon too. There are going to be Moorish astronauts going to the moon, of course, of course. And we'll just run into more Moors up there too. So for those who want to take a clip of this video and put that out there, go ahead. We're already there and they know it. So again, we're changing things to make it so that our heaven manifests according to our will. And then if you want to take a look at a land patent with this land patent right here, and I just picked one. I just picked a general land patent from before 1871, because the majority of them have the flag on them and it looks like this. Okay, if you look at it again, they have it with a wave in it because there was something going on there. There was some distress instead of having it just sitting perfectly straight. So I'll put this in the chat, the link to that, so that you can look at that land patent with the banner for amity and commerce on it. Okay. And to them, this is backwards. To them, it's backwards, and to them, you know, it's wrong, so to speak. But it's not wrong. To us, it's forward. They're admitting that it's forward, that it should be this way for if you really are talking about our space. So, Moors, when you talk about universal natural area codes, that is what this is about also. So again, on our red documents, we are not putting this this flag, this banner of amity and banner for amity and commerce. On our red documents, this does not go on our documents. But as we move into commerce, then this is for commercial purposes. Okay, this is what our letterhead will look like for commercial purposes. And then as we're moving in commerce, and this is something that I've noticed about everyone who comes here. Everyone who comes to this land uses common English in commerce. But when they're putting their status, no matter what their status is, when they're putting their status, when they first come here to have their status recorded, they use naturalization documents. And so for us, we would use nationalization documents, which is the documents in red ink, and all lowercase letters. That needs to go on the record first because it's saying you are sovereign on the land. And then as you move into commerce this way with blue, because that means admiralty, water, sea, and then you have the banner in this manner on your document so that you know. And I'll say this about commerce, because Justice Frank, you had asked a while back about a commercial driver license. Our sovereign state will put out a commercial driver license, and it will have our flag on it. It will have the 3 flags that you see on it, reflected on it. It will also have the state that issued it. And when I say the state, for example, here, this is Washington, because that's what we call it here. Not the state of Washington, it's Washington. And so we have crafted a flag for Washington. Let me show you what the documents look like for Washington, for this territory that we're at. What the letterhead looks like, because it's a different letterhead from even from what we've done so far. Let's see. Let's see. Washington fiduciary. Just one moment. Let me pull that up. So that you can see what our state fiduciary or territory fiduciary document looks like. And some may think we're doing too much, but we know that they put layer upon layer upon layer of documentation on top of our estate. We know that we're rebutting that properly. So I noticed that, for example, in this territory, there are a lot of people who came here from Asia, the other Asia, because this is Asia too. And when they come here, I saw one who spoke at a quote unquote a corporate city council meeting, and I watch him on YouTube because I want to see what's going on in the territory. And he said that he had been here for 40 years. And he said, and he was saying, you may not understand my English because English is the second language. After 40 years, he still could barely speak English. That told me how he's been doing business in this territory. He's been doing it according to his people and not common or corporate anything. One thing about those that are Asian in this territory, and we honor them, we're glad they're here, because they are a great example of what we should be doing. For them in this territory, they do everything together. Very seldom do you see them out with people who are not them. And some might say that that's, whatever. We need to be unified or They're unified with themselves first. Then you can unify with everybody else, but you need to have your jurisdiction established first. They go to church together. They work together, they do business together, and then whenever they need something, they'll go out and get it and bring it back to them. That's how they do business. And as you all know, They were some of the ones that was following the sleepy dead, you know, the sleepy, let me say this properly, the sleeping Moors who thought we were citizens. They were the ones following us around in what is appeared to be their stores, you know, saying, yeah, make sure they don't steal anything, you know, because that's how citizens and blacks, that's how blacks are treated. But when you know who you are, you're not going to be treated that way. You're not going to be treated that way. Even in the quote-unquote city council meeting that this Asian gentleman was speaking at, he even said that things are changing. He said that things are really, really changing in this, you know, we know things are changing. But until then, you know, I want to make sure that that zoning for this building stays what it should be, or whatever. And I won't even tell you what building he was talking about. So let us move forward. So this is the fiduciary document. As I move forward in this territory, as we move forward, because we're still all together, we're the state, and that's what we're doing. We're the state. We know it. We're also Federal Way City. Anything that has to do with this territory has to do with us. Okay? So let me show you my fiduciary document for this city. This is the letterhead for Federal Way City for the fiduciary. And Washington is one of the several states of the United States, the original indigenous sovereign United States. So I had to design a flag for Washington. So what did I do? I looked at the flag that the corporate had done, and then I said, well, we're not going to use that. We know that, but we know that they hypothecated that from somewhere because they didn't even come up with their own flags, y'all. They did not even come up with their own flags. So what did I do? Let me show you what their flag looks like. Really quickly. Let me show you what their flag looks like. So you'll know why I did what I did with our flag. Because we know they hypothecated. We know that. So let's take a look and see. Okay. Okay. So here's what theirs looks like. This is what theirs looks like on the screen. Okay. So you see how they have, you know, the fictitious George Washington. So what did we do? We found the real George Washington, and we put him on our flag. We did the research. We looked it up. Just one moment. And then we said, okay, let's find the real one, because we know there was a real George Washington. And funny that this is the only quote-unquote corporate state that has a what they say is the face of a president on the flag. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So I went out and I found the real George Washington here. And here he is. And so the one that you see on the screen is the real George Washington, and he's original and indigenous to this land and to this area here. And yes, the real George Washington. And the corporate one, look at their hair. The real George Washington has that curl, you know, his hair going back with the curl. That's the one that they hypothecated or subjugated or attempted to subrogate, the identity of this. And when you look at this George Washington and you put it next to the other one, they're even wearing the same clothing. They're even wearing the same clothing. And this George Washington, the oldest city here at Washington is called Centralia. And of course they say, well, Centralia was started by George Washington and he was a black man, quote unquote. That's what they say. Centralia was our capital. And that's where we did all of our commerce from, starting here, Centralia. And so we just took this George Washington and we put him on our flag. So our flag for Washington has his likeness on it. He was the first, the very first. Just one moment. And again, our flag will look more, you know, professional, so to speak. When the time is right, we will do that. But for now, we wanted to do it this way and have it so that the real George Washington, who is one of us, is on our flag, and have it so that and then what we did was we put him on the flag. Here, let me put it on the screen here. This is the flag. Just one moment. Okay. This is the flag, and it has his photo on it, and it has Washington, and then it has 1313 on it. Okay? So what is 1313? That's the year that it's an approximation of the year that he proclaimed this a state, an original indigenous state. For them, it was 1889 or thereabouts. For us, 1889 or thereabouts is between 1310 and 1313. Yes, it is. So he is the father of, or the founding father of Washington. He is, not anyone else. So that's that's the research that we did for our flag, and so we went ahead and put the real George Washington on it. And then we put it on our letterhead along with the real banner for Amity and Commerce, because we're going into commerce here. And we wanted to make sure that we stayed in our proper status, number one, and number two, that as we do this transition, that it's a smooth transition. It needs to be a smooth transition. And the least amount of upheaval as possible is key. So on our document, for example, if we were going to do something like claim a building, which we've already done, but we are continuing that process. And so let's say if we were going to do something like whatever the case may be, file documentation, or not file it, but have documentation recorded. We would have documentation for the building recorded using this letterhead and this fiduciary document using common English, and of course stamping and sealing the documentation, because that is actually how land documentation or commerce is done. Okay, that's how commerce is done. And the fiduciary document here looks pretty much the same. It's just in common English, and it has our stamps and seals and everything on it as well. Okay. And we're using natural persons to accomplish what we need to accomplish. But these people, these custodians that have anything to do with Washington, we have already leaned the corporate covering left and right, left and right. We've done that and notified. We have notified everyone of who we are and what we're doing, so that when these documents start moving around in notification about buildings and structures and taxes and things like that, that kind of stuff, all we're doing is saying we're the government, we're the law, we're Washington, we're the real one, we're the real federal way, and anything that needs to be done, we're going to use our flags and use, because again, we had to rebut point for point what they were putting out there. And the issue is that at one point we were not rebutting because we were asleep. We didn't even know that we had the authority to rebut. But now we know. And so point for point, here we go again, doing what we need to do in our territories, because more, when you're talking about commerce and you're talking about buildings and structures and domiciles and conveyances and tags and all of that, this is just fine-tuning what we already know about us. And we're going to continue to fine-tune. We're going to fine-tune. And again, all of our documents in red have already been put on the public record. We leaned everything in sight, and we're going to continue leaning as we see things that need to be spoken to by us. We're going to continue leaning, and we're going to continue doing court actions and things like that, so that we clear the way for us to access the estate the way that we need to access it. But we had to look at what they were doing, and this is what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali said. He said that they were going to leave the European here long enough to teach us how to govern. Okay? And that's what we're doing, is putting everything back in its proper place and putting our original indigenous jurisdiction on everything and not acquiescing to what they were doing. We're not going to acquiesce. We're going to do it, and we're going to move step by step. So those of you who've put constitutions on the public record, we're just excited. We honor you. We're going to do this constitution thing. We're going to have a constitutional convention where we bring all of that together and put our national blessing on all of that, on the documentation. And we're going to continue to move forward. We are planning a constitutional convention for October the 28th, 29th, and 30th, I believe it is. So it's the weekend of Halloween. Halloween is on, or let me say it right. Halloween is on a Monday, because instead of saying Halloween, we say Halloween, because that's really what it is. That's on a Monday, so the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before that. And we could really do it the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before that. Yes, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before Halloween. Halloween. We're having a constitutional convention here in this territory. And we want to use our economic power to move everything forward, okay? And so the ancestors said, go ahead and just announce that we're having a constitutional convention on that weekend, the last weekend in October, and we'll have it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, because that way people can travel back and forth between that time period. And they said, go ahead and announce it. And I said, well, we don't want to use fiat to do the things we're doing. And they said, don't worry about that. We got it fixed. It's covered. Go ahead and move forward and announce it. So that's what we're doing. Okay. And then we'll just keep moving forward and showing you what we're doing here in this territory and taking it step by step. Because we have to move in this direction. We have to move this way because we know that other thing is done. The previous is not a thing anymore. So, with that being said, are there any questions or comments or anything of that nature with regard to? Just one moment. Let me put the meeting into. Let me put it into, make it so that we can, you can unmute yourself, *6. Empress Angel, you had a testament, you did a demonstration. Do you want to open the floor with that demonstration? Do you want to give us some information about what happened and what you did? Because I wasn't able to hear when you were discussing it previously.
Islam,
Empress.
Well, first let's make note that today's a power day, right? And I didn't even realize it when I did it until after I sent it off. And I said, oh, dear God, wow, I did all this on a power day. Islam.
Yes. Your instinct is kicked in, Empress. You're all the way on.
Yes, yes. So I did a demonstration for a conveyance. I did it by way of, because I have my Social Security number, but I don't have my card, so I wasn't able to do the digits on the back on the red. So I used my bond, the birth certificate, and I had all those digits. So I leaned that, and I put them on notice and everything else, and a court action. I did all of that. And I had leaned the number for the VIN number. I did all that, and I got all the fax numbers and the emails, and the fax number to the de jure office of the Treasury in Utah. I did all that, and I sent it off. But what I did was I got the sticker from the window, but those things are on the web now. You don't got to go to the dealership anymore. You can go right online and get that information, print it out, and autograph it, put your thumbprint on it, put your seal on it, and put prepaid, and put your account on it, and send it off. And that's exactly what I did. And I made my prepaid card also for my account. Because my Social Security number was my account number. So and I used that, and then the numbers that were in the right-hand corner in red, like the ones on the back of Social Security number, back on the Social Security card. Like I said, I don't have that, but I used the ones that were on the bond, and then the 9 nines as the account number, and I sent it off today.
Islam.
So I gave them the command for 3 days to, for me to have my pickup for my conveyance, and that's what I'm expecting to have happen, because I know that, like you keep saying, everything has been set in motion. And my consort, well, nothing by accident or chance. On his way back from being out, he hold please. He's on the online class, so he found this video of this European teaching what you were teaching about the trust, the Kesesut trust, and how we've been the creditors this whole entire time up until the age of 18, that they let the money accumulate, and as soon as you turn 18, then you become the debtor and you accrue debt. But when you pass on and you transition, then they pay off all your debts with what was owed, and then they cap it. But the account, the trust still accumulates money, and anything that has been accumulated over past the time and date on which you've transitioned, they use that to pay for the federal budget. I was like, wow.
Say that again, Empress. They do what with the federal budget? Say that again.
They take the balance, the difference that has been accumulating after the transition of the being, after they've left. They keep a record of that, and then as the trust continuously accumulates value, anything over that, let's say it capped at 100,000 before they died, and when they did die, it was at 100,000. So it accumulates money. So let's say it went from 100 to 600. So the difference is 5. So that 500 million, they use it for the federal government budget.
So here's the twist to that. Here's the twist to it. They do that waiting, they wait until someone transitions to do that. However, we don't transition. So what we do is we do all of the steps that say that we're no longer alive in that system.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's so beautiful that you brought this up, because Justice Abbasi and I were just having this conversation the other day. He sent me some very valuable information that along these same lines with regard to the birth certificate. Now, some are not going to agree with what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to read you what's here and talk about that birth certificate piece and what we're doing with ours. I can't tell Morris what to do, but I can tell you what I'm going to do.
Right.
Okay. On the same thing. Okay. Because remember what you just said, Empress, that once in that system, someone is labeled as having died in that system, the payoff happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the USC code, it says the same thing.
Really?
It says the very same thing. Yes, in the USC code, it says that upon proof of death, that everything is taken care of by the quote-unquote Secretary of the Treasury.
Mm.
So now, someone asked what's the name or link to the video that you're referring to.
Oh, yeah, I can put it in the chat.
Thank you, Empress. Please do. And we'll put it under this video on at Like to Jury Bay channel on YouTube. We were having this same conversation because I received some information about that someone out there is putting out. And again, we have to clean up everything we hear, y'all. We do have to clean up because the information is corrupt. It has some truth, a little bit of truth, and a bunch of corruption around. So we have to clean up the corruption. Now, I'll read to you what was sent to me. The title of this paper, this paper, I'm assuming it's from someone's book. And whoever, if this is from someone's book and we're quoting your book, we apologize that we don't know, and I'll take full responsibility for this because we already know the information belonged to the Moors first, but we do want to, you know, those who took the time to type it up and put it in the book and claim it, okay, you claimed it. And we honor that you put it out here because it's actually some information that we can use. So we honor you for putting it out here. But this is what it says. It said, the title of it is Special Stuff You Should Know, Taking Your Birth Certificate to Court. Now this is corrupt information, but we're going to clean it up. This is what it says. It says the courts only want to charge some bogus bonds to your federal account, and they need your bond or permission to do the discharge. Because, see, that's what you're talking about, Empress, that there's a discharge of the debt. Yeah. You want someone proving to be dead. Now, let's just say this. I'll say this. This is a separate from the writing. This is me saying this. Blacks are dead at law anyway.
This is true.
And that's why they've been doing what they've been doing.
So
when we're not black anymore, then the system will show that we're, quote unquote, dead, that their 14th Amendment is dead. Then we're reaching into eternal life for us.
Mm-hmm.
We've already started the process by declaring our nationality, because when we declare our nationality, their census records reflect that a black has gone on, has transitioned. Yeah. Because you're not there anymore. You're not there anymore. You're not operating as a black anymore. And you will never go back to that status because that was never your status in the first place.
Islam.
And that is what termination of all corporate contracts does. It's the beginning of it, of saying we're not that. We live in heaven in this jurisdiction. We never were dead at law.
Yes, Islam. And you know what? I'm sorry, but I got my remedy from my question that I had asked you before about the brother being in prison and getting certificates rather than the bonds. And you had stated that you take the certificate and or bond and you lean it and you do it just like the prepaid account debit card. I said, credit card. I said, holy cow. So I was sitting here like and almost in distress, but I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to be. I have the remedy. So I went back and I zeroed in on what she was saying and I said, there it is. And I was like, that is exactly what I did. And then that book I had mentioned to you about the brother who took got the car and all those everything, I did that part as well. So I was just like, you just take the parts and you put it all together and there you go. Yes, Empress. Go. Yes. The estate is ours. It's open to us. We just have to do, he who follows the rules wears the crown. And we put the rules in place. That's in 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, verse 5. Look it up. They have known this already. That's why they don't mind kicking in the door if we don't do what we put in place.
But we can't do it in their system. And they know that. That's what all of that madness is about. So let me finish reading this excerpt. And it's the corrupt excerpt. I'm telling you that now. We're going to clean it up. It says, the courts only want to charge some bogus bonds to your federal account, and they need your bond or permission to do the discharge. Otherwise, you must pay a fine and go to jail. But they neglected to tell us that the birth certificate is the bond. And the birth certificate is proof that we are the beneficiary, which their birth certificate is not that. So they're talking about our living birth affidavits, because their birth certificates are debtor documents. They're debt documents. So it says, but they neglected to tell that the birth certificate is the bond, and the birth certificate is proof that, and this is what they're saying, they are the beneficiary and not the trustee of their straw man account, trust account. It says the state is the trustee.
I forgot to tell this part too, that I have the affidavit of living birth, and I did the birth certificate, the live birth certificate as well, and I put the seal on that, and I also sent that part and with the whole part of stating my claim for my conveyance. I sent all of that out because I realized that I was using my certificate as my taking back my property, so I had to give them the true living one in place because I had to fill the vacuum with that, I had to fill that. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so I took that out of the death, and now I'm giving them the lives and the real affidavits. Yes. So that's what I did.
Yes. You live in heaven now. You don't live in their fraudulent jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And so let's see. It says, and on this it says the state is the trustee. Well, we're the state too, and we're the creditor state. That's the thing. It says, continuing on in this reading, it says everything, including crime and taxes, is already prepaid through that birth certificate bond. It says now remember, their birth certificate is not that's not where the payment comes from. Okay. It says, in every case so far, the charges were settled and they let the fellow go without a record of crime by surrendering the birth certificate. Further, the birth certificate proves that you are the beneficiary of your straw man estate. It says the prosecutor's is claiming that he represents the beneficiary, quote unquote, the state, when the state is really supposed to be the trustee. So when you bring the birth certificate into court, you discharge all of the charges against you, and you prove that you are the beneficiary of your trust estate, and this completely shuts the prosecutor down. The prosecutor now has no standing. You bringing in the birth certificate proves that he has brought fraud into the court by claiming to be the beneficiary instead of you. Only the beneficiary, which is you, can be the plaintiff, and only the trustee, which is the state, can be the defendant. And they're saying they do not give legal advice because they know they're not supposed to be giving legal advice like that. But this is some writing that someone said about a birth certificate. Well, listen. So what do people do when someone dies? I'll just ask you. What documents do they do in order to get the benefit of the insurance policy? What do they do?
They issue a death certificate.
Yes! Yes! Now, let me ask you this. The corporates call their birth certificate a birth certificate, but if it's killing the heirs in terms of status, because it's not killing us, we're eternal. But if we accept that birth certificate, is it really a birth certificate or is it a death certificate?
It's a death certificate, so that's a reversion of estate once you put the live one on the record.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now check this out, because this thing right here just kind of said it. Let me read that statement again. It says, in every case so far, the charges were settled and they let the fellow go without a record of crime by surrendering the birth certificate. We don't surrender because we're the heirs. But the reason we created living birth affidavits is because it says we're alive and we're not lost at sea. We're not dead. We're not lost at sea. We're alive. So for each document that we have that we were given by the corporate, once we create the living document, we can put all of those documents together and render, not surrender, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Now, some don't want to do that, but that's a demonstration right there that we're being led to do. We're going to match document for document, birth certificate, passport, driver's license, Social Security, all of those documents. We have sovereign living documents, credit cards, ATM cards, all of that, money, all of that. We have everything point for point that we can match to everything that all the paper that was covering our estate. So what happens when you put all of the documents that you have, and we're still producing them, we're still, we're actually going to produce a sovereign security card. We're going to produce a commercial driver's license. And some say, well, we don't need a driver's license and stuff. That's fine. If you don't feel led to do it, don't do it. Okay, you're sovereign. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to do the demonstrations because I feel like it's necessary to rebut point for point everything that they put out. And then go to one of the inferior courts, and it will be a county court, and turn all of that stuff in. Because I don't have any contract with them. Why do I need their stuff? We have our own. We have to produce our own. Now, that's a demonstration that takes time. Some won't do that demonstration for years. We're just going to take our time, and that's what we have pulled back a little bit from the calls to do, is take our time to produce a sovereign security card that whenever someone says, well, do you have a Social Security number? No, we got this. We have sovereign security because that black one is dead. The black is dead. We'll go ahead and have our estate. We'll take our estate. We'll go ahead and be the beneficiaries of that insurance policy that our ancestors left for us. So I'm just looking through every. We have the ability to do the grocery store cards. We have the ability to do the sovereign security number cards. We have the ability to do passports. We have the ability to do all of that. Driver's license, and I'll say this about the driver's license. Every driver license that those frauds issued was a commercial driver's license. Every one of them, whether it said CDL or not, was a commercial driver license. Why do I say that? Because they were doing commerce when they pulled you over, and everybody who had one of those, they sent you to a commercial court to deal with it, including those who have had those things suspended, supposedly suspended, for things like child support. They were pulling your children, your heirs, into their commerce and trafficking them.
In line. And because the man on the video, he said also that the highest account out here is the Department of Justice. He said because the court is the bank, and they are constantly making accounts and taking money out of your Sesecute trust, and that's why the Department of Justice has the most money. And he said it's more than any agricultural, and he said agricultural because that's what is when you're chattel, you're under that code in their jurisdiction as agricultural chattel. So he said that is exactly what it is.
Yes, because you're animals. You're not animals, Morris. Let me make sure I clarify. You're claiming an animal status.
Agriculturist animal, chattel.
Yep. You're claiming a chattel, 14th Amendment, slave, servant status.
And he said the Department of Justice makes more money than that department.
Listen, the Department of Transportation and the Department of Justice, again, they're all one. The custodians in the office of those are all one. Okay? So, yes, that's why corporations can't own anything. It all belongs to the heirs. And so we have to, in order to access our estate the way that we know we can, we have to state everything properly. ATM cards need to be properly stated. Merchant cards are the proper statement of ATM cards, and account after account after account after account that's being created. I mean, I showed you here on this document where for just one of us, if we had accepted their fraudulent status, they were claiming a bunch of stuff. Look at how many, look, this is 3 accounts, okay? 1, 2, 3, and that's not even all of them. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 claimants trying to claim that their corpse owes them something through these accounts, and these are the accounts that they want to run things through, their fiat through. And then this RCW, this is a statute, a code. They're using this code to justify the creation of these accounts, and they're saying, okay, let's slap that corpse with a whole bunch of this, and all four of these corporations get a piece. So, listen, they've been making all that they could off of the Moors. That's why it's more Moors that were in there previously than anyone else. That's why, because listen, we put generations and generations of them and their kids through college and all of that. So when you see private jets flying around and things like that, that was about you. And that's why when I think about merchant cards and those who may doubt a merchant card, how you gonna doubt a merchant card? But you see them, they were flying around in private. All of them had private jets off the. Come on now, off the Moors.
Dear God, right? Dear God.
Right? And would you doubt a $100 million merchant card when just one family of them had 2 and 3 private jets and 10 and 12, 10 and 15,000 square feet domiciles, and they had private islands and all of that. Come on now, Moors, come on now. I mean, really. And they got that pretending to be us. So imagine how much we have access to when we're being ourselves. And it's not funny that we were in that situation, but to me, I'm chuckling a little at Moors who doubt that we have the authority to do a $100 million merchant card. All of us, each one of us, can do that for each card we were ever issued. It's
Islam.
just,
Yeah.
I just find it's a little bit funny to me that people would even doubt that.
They don't understand the power that they have.
Yeah.
They don't understand the fraud that things were created in, and then they can't fathom the truth that they actually possess. That's that part. Because the fraudulent fraud seems so much greater than the truth that they don't realize yet.
Yeah, and that's okay because we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving because, I mean, to me, 100 million is a drop in the bucket.
It really is.
Think about that. When you think about 200 years of them doing all of that kind of stuff. Now, speaking of that, I want to introduce. Did you have something else to say with regard to that, empresses? Because I hear a couple of empresses.
No, none.
Okay, Islam. So I want to introduce another aspect of our banking, our national banking, while I'm still chuckling about that, that the unbelief. Because it's not even about beliefs, it's about the law. Those people know the rules. That's why they always talk about the rule of law. The rule of law. And then they point right back to 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, verse 5. And they say, he who knows the rules gets to wear the crown. And we were born with the crown. So I'll just leave that where it is and chuckle about it a little more later. Now, I want to bring something to your attention where our banking is concerned. And this is a precept that we just want you to think about it because it's been going on since the beginning. And we are going to use this precept, and we've been using it, but we're going to continue. We're going to put a little more on it, a little more information on it. So, are you familiar with or have any of you heard of Hawala banking? Hawala banking. Now, Hawala banking has been going on under our noses the whole time, but we didn't know that. What is Hawala banking? Hawala banking. I just love the way that sounds because it's how Allah does things. Hawala banking is an informal, and they say informal because it's off of corporate books. An informal method of transferring money without any money physically moving from one place to another. Now, when you do an electronic funds transfer and you transfer some money to mom in another place and you transfer it to mom's account, have you gone out? You haven't even left your living room, okay? You're just there and you get on the computer and you say, pling, and then mom calls and says, thank you, I got it. Has any script or money, quote unquote, or fiat, has it moved at all? Did you get up and carry the fiat to her? No, you did not. All you did was type in a few things, click, 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 and she has it. That is Hawala banking. So let's talk more about that so that we know where that came from. What is Hawala? Hawala, originating from an Arabic term for transfer or trust, is an informal method of transferring money without any money physically moving from one place to another. It is based on a system of money lenders known as hawaladars, which is generally used where the Middle East, Africa and on the Indian subcontinent outside traditional, quote unquote, banking systems common among the Western world. Yes. Justice Frank, I'm with you, chink chink banking. So we've been doing Islamic principles in banking the whole time. We just didn't know, and no one was going to tell us that they hypothecated our how Allah does things. They were not going to tell us. We had to manifest that. So how Allah banking, let's give you, and this is a beautiful diagram, I just love it. This is what a how Allah transaction looks like. Here, let me make it a little smaller so you can see the whole precept. This is a Hawala transaction. So someone takes their dollars to the Hawala Dar A. So let's say Hawala Dar A is Empress Cynthia or Empress Chitali. Okay? So I take my money to, let's say I take some fiat to Empress Chitali. And I say, Empress Chitali, I want to send some money over to Empress Cynthia. And so Empress Chitali and I are in the same territory. So I take the fiat to her, and then she records the fiat on her Google Sheets account. That, you know, the count that we have. And she takes the fiat. And then she picks up the phone and she calls Hawala Dar Cynthia and says, Empress Cynthia, can you give Empress Light's cousin that she's sending this 1,000 to, these 1,000 credits to, can you give her cousin 1,000 dollarium? Because that's what's acceptable. And so instead of anything moving except an email, because this is really the SWIFT system is Hawala Dar banking. Empress Chitali sends Empress Cynthia an email, and she says, okay, this came in, 1,000 came in, and then Empress Light gave a $10 fee for us to do this exchange. So then, aside from the 1,000 sovereign credit, or, you know, even if it's fiat, fiat is really just, it's not even reflected properly on the book because it's really credit, not credit. It's credits in their debt system, okay? But this is an exchange of credits for dollarium. And this is a change in jurisdiction of the money, okay? This is where money changes jurisdiction. So Empress Chitali emails Empress Cynthia and says, Empress Light gave me 1,000 sovereign credits. Whatever money we use, okay? And she wants that 1,000 to go to her cousin in your territory. And so Empress Chitali gives Empress Cynthia a password that I give her. And I give her the password and I give her the money. Okay, let's not even talk about fiat, but let's talk about dollars, because fiat is not dollars. We'll say dollars. I give her $1,000 and plus the $10 fee for her to do this transaction. And so when she emails Empress Cynthia, Empress Cynthia pulls 1,000 from her book. And whenever my cousin comes in and gives the password and her ID, her Moorish ID, then Empress Cynthia gives her the 1,000. Okay. And then they do this all month long with Moors, all month long. And then at the end of the month, they Empress Chitali and Empress Cynthia come together and say, okay, let's reconcile our books and make sure that, number one, you get half of the service fee, and let's make sure that every time I added 1,000 to mine, you took 1,000 away from yours because you gave 1,000 out. And then my cousin's aunt comes in on Empress Cynthia's end, and she sends 2,000 back to me 15 days later. So Empress Chitali and Empress Cynthia are going to be reconciling their books back and forth as the exchanges come and go and change jurisdiction. And so as the money, and now again, states, this is the different states. For example, New York may have they may have a different type of currency than dollarium. They may have some other kind, or they may have dollarium. Either way, the credits are going to be changed on the books where banker Empress Chitali and banker Empress Cynthia are concerned. So banker A, Hawala A, Empress Chitali, and Hawala B, Empress Cynthia, are going to be going back and forth, you know, because people are coming in and they're sending money back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and at the end of the month, the two of the Hawaladars or bankers will reconcile their accounts, okay? And then they'll split the service fee, half and half. So for every amount that Empress Chitali took in, she took in $10 service fee. So if she took in 15 or 10 service fees, that's $100. If Empress Cynthia took in 9 service fees and she was sending things over, then the only thing they have to reconcile is 1 service fee, because the difference between the 10 that Empress Chitali took in and the 9 that Empress Cynthia took in is just 1. So they just split that last service fee and they keep everything else. This form of banking is what people in Hawaladars in New York have been doing this the whole time. And in places like Syria, Iraq, Iran, certain places in Turkey, Yemen, Pakistan, India, certain places like that, they've been doing that the whole time. They've had Hawaladars doing things where they take the money and they wire it across to their relative Hawaladar over in India or over in Pakistan or wherever, and they just send an email saying give them this or give them that, and they just keep a certain amount of reserves on hand so that when people come in wanting to send different amounts, they can do that. And that way, no one doing business as an IRS or anything like that can come through and interrupt the transmission. Okay? So now, where are we going with this? Yes, it is. Empress Chitali says this is a Western Union fiat transfer system. They have this service at Walmart. Yes, Walmart to Walmart. And Empress Chitali, it's funny that you would bring that up, because in having this conversation with some of the Moors that we consul with on banking issues, they were saying that Western Union started that whole thing, because Western Union is actually something that we So Walmart was changing. This is what Walmart was doing, and Western Union too, and all of them. All they were doing was changing fiat into an electronic commercial instrument. They would take in the fiat, and then they would send a message via the Western Union system to the other Western Union, wherever, and it was identified by the grocery store that had the Western Union or the financial place that had it. And they were changing that fiat into electronic transfers. And then that whoever it was on the receiving end that operated the Western Union location would pull that amount from their inventory and issue it within 15 minutes of receiving of the message. That's Hawala banking. They've been doing it the whole time. We just needed to know how that worked. And we've talked about this before, but we didn't know the word to use. But now we know the word to use. It's Hawala. 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 So I just wanted to put that precept forward because this is what Jekyll Island was all about, Moors. Jekyll Island was where 13 corporates doing business as bankers came together and said, listen, we have to trust each other. We have to trust each other. So that as we hypothecate and subrogate Hawala, that everyone matches up and does what they need to do in terms of making sure the books are reconciled properly. Okay? So here's a summary really quickly. Hawala, originating from an Arabic term for transfer or trust, and what they're really saying here is that transfer and trust mean the same thing. It says it is an informal method of transferring money without any money physically moving from one place to another. Instead of going through the traditional banking systems, it makes use of a network of dealers called hawaladars and is especially common in Islamic countries as well as those in Africa and India, where formal banking systems are less sophisticated. And of course they're going to say it's less sophisticated, but it's actually, it supersedes a system that can be easily hacked and interrupted. But let's continue. It says unique aspects of Hawala include its dependence on an honor system among hawaladars and relationships in the Hawala networks, often based on familial, village, or ethnic ties. So we're just putting that out here because the 13 banking sovereigns, are beginning to manifest. And when we say 13, what territory are you in? Are you at, rather? What territory are you at? The territory that you're at, you can be a banker in your territory, at your territory. Okay? You can do that. We need to start thinking now about how we're going to manifest this. And I would love to do a demonstration with any of you where we do a Hawaladar transaction with Dollarium, where we put it on the book, and then we send the email, and then the Hawaladar in that territory gives the Dollarium to one of the Moors in the territory. I would like to just do the demonstration just for general purposes, just to see how, just to see. So we'll walk through that. Yes, like we did the Postmaster General. Because, see, there's a certain energy that comes with doing these demonstrations. And some might say, well, that's so easy to do. Yeah, it's easy to do. But how come we haven't been doing it? How come we haven't been doing that?
Islam.
Yes.
I have a question. Would it be prudent to have a separate, like, email system where it's used just for the banking transactions? You know, because they have separate phone numbers where they send things through. So.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, yes. Yep. Okay. Yes. A banking system, listen, we could do that so many different ways that it's just unbelievable. We could have an email system. We could also do it where we can do it kind of sort of it's kind of like blockchain style, where we have a website where we put the exchanges up on the website, and then whoever the Hawala is for that territory, you know, we check the website daily at certain times, or when we're dealing with Moors, we just say, okay, we have an exchange that needs to take place, and Moors want to send something somewhere to maybe, let's just say, one of the merchants in the territory. We could even get their merchant card number, and the Hawaladars can take the merchant card number, take the amount of dollarium that the Moors want to give, and put that on our books, and then send the transmission, the SWIFT transmission, which is an email, to the other Hawaladar and say, Empress Chitali gave us permission to charge her card for 30,000 dollarium, so that she can get a conveyance. It's a little mini conveyance from Empress Angel at New York Territory. They're doing an exchange. And so then the Hawaladar there will say, okay, we have the transmission. We're going to give the 30,000 to the Moor in this territory for that conveyance. And then that conveyance can be shipped to Empress Chitali, or she can go and pick it up. And it's already prepaid. So what we're doing right now is talking through and working out how things are going to progress with us, okay? Because this way, when we do our transmissions this way, and when we do our banking this way, who is it that can say, well, you received over $600, so we need to tax that? Or you bought a conveyance and we saw that money go back and forth, but you owe $10,000 in child support. So we're going to interrupt that transmission and take that $10,000, so you don't get the conveyance. You just minus 10 for child support, which is human trafficking. And the nobility takes great care of their children, by the way, so we don't have that issue, because we are morally and ethically sound as a nation and disciplined. So we're just talking through. Yes, we're creating as many different ways to bank as possible. So that is why we have dollarium, we have merchant cards, we have treasury checks, we have what else? And now this. More, just as many ways as we can, we're introducing them and using our medium of exchange, which is dollarium, more sovereign dollarium, in order to, again, manifest the commercial viability of our banking. Now, I will say this, Hawaladar banking is going to be important when it comes to the commerce that we do in this territory. For example, the sea salt commerce that we're going to be doing, and the real estate commerce that we're going to be doing. All of the things that we're going to be doing in this territory, Hawala banking or Hawala banking, and merchant cards and delarium and all of that comes into play with regard to the territory and the things that we're doing here. The Moorish merchants that come here to do business, all of that is what we're looking forward to with these precepts that we're putting on the public record as how, because see, access to the estate is coming as we show competence to governing. And that's why we continue putting these things out here, to show that, yes, we're competent to govern the vast estate. We all are. We know what to do. We just have to continue manifesting those things and how to do it. We know how to create title to a domicile. We know how to do a sovereign exchange on a public record. We know how to do banking. We know how to inspect real estate. We have Moors who do that. We know how to build up the things that need to be built up, So we're going to continue demonstrating in this manner and keep putting the precepts forward that say and that illustrate that, yes, we do know how to govern our vast estate. Because access is manifesting with each and every step we take in stating that we know how to govern this vast estate. Are there any questions or comments with regard to what we have talked about so far? Yes, Allah is banking. Islam. Yes, Islam.
Just wanted to make a comment that on the transfers of funds, they can't tax any funds that they did not create.
Yeah.
So it's impossible for them to track the tax of transactions that the Moorish government have put in place.
Of course. Of course. Of course. Now, the Empress, that's brilliant because it's so true. There's no way for them to do it. There's no way for them to get into the system and do it. They don't have a medium of transfer to do it. Now, I will prove to you, and I guess I don't have to prove it, but when you hear the story of the actor known as Hillary Clinton having this email and this server, and everyone wanted the emails to see what was going on with the emails, do you know what the big deal was with the email? It was Hawala banking. There was fiat being transferred back and forth, and they wanted to know who's getting it, who's doing these transfers. That's how they did it. So what did they do? They took it all the way, supposedly to where? Ukraine or somewhere, wherever they said they took the server. And then they wanted to get a laptop from one of them other actors. And the reason they wanted that, the reason that made a big deal is because some of the emails and some of the fiat was going back and forth there. And the actor thought that by deleting the emails that they would go away, but no, there's forensic computer information that makes it so that even if you delete it, it's still on there. It just moves to a different file. It just moves to a file you can't see. That's all. So it just looks like it's gone. But there's a forensic footprint on every one. So Now, more, what we're doing is connecting the products and services with the banking system that we have. Okay? We're connecting the products and services with the banking system that we have. And that's gonna be easy too. It's gonna manifest very shortly. It's already really done. We just have to show how it's done. And all of us can do that. Any service that we offer, we just do the reconciliation. Okay? Now, for some of us, and this is another part that we're looking at, we're just looking at it because it exists. There are some who, for example, there are Moors who had domiciles, and they were good stewards over, you know, in their sleep they were good stewards over what they earned or what was given to them in terms of domiciles and 401ks and all of that stuff that really they're having problems with now. And when I say they, I mean that system. A way to look at that and say, okay, this is what was there. Let us lean that and produce this. But each Moor has to do that for their own stuff, you know. For example, if you have a domicile and the domicile is the quote-unquote market value is $100,000, then a lien on all of that, and then a merchant card for $100,000, or you can add $100,000 to your merchant card. Especially like Empress Angela was saying earlier, she put her merchant card, she created it from her sovereign security number. So you can add $100,000 to your merchant card based on the equity in the domicile, because it's not really equity, it's debt from the corporate perspective, but it's credit from our perspective. So those who were, you know, good stewards over what they had and ran into some unfortunate something, you know, there was some hypothecation or eviction or something like that, but you were a good steward over what you had, you can look back at that and add credits to your merchant account that way. As our banking continues to manifest, we're going to be looking at that, and we would say, okay, do you have any documentation from that other corporate side? Do you have any documentation that we can say, okay, we'll lien this, and you will do the leaning of it. No one's going to lien for you, and no one's going to overstep you and lien your stuff, okay? But lien it and then issue sovereign credit and real money for it, or a real line of quote-unquote credit, quote-unquote, okay, because it's really your credit. So these are things that we're looking at and that we're going to be manifesting as we continue to work our way up through this banking, the viability of the banking process. Okay. I guess that must mean that that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Islam.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yes.
I got booted out for two, so I'm so glad I got this call. This knocked me off the daggone thing here.
Yeah. We got you, Justice Frank.
That's why I call in.
And I'll be glad to unlock it too if you want me to do that.
No, it's not locked. Just pick me up. That has nothing to do with you. I don't think it is.
Okay, good. That's great. So
that's why I call in too. In case of the emergency, I enjoy your conversation. Especially a girl from Kalita territory. She has some questions, some good questions. She's demonstrating. I love it.
Yeah, Islam. So so These are things that we are looking at because we have to return to the ways of our foremothers and forefathers, even in banking, okay? And for us, Hawala is judicial banking. Everything is done by affidavit anyway. And the affidavits can be, because see, there has to be an autograph with each transaction, with each exchange that happens. We could literally send dollarium to Turkey or Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Pakistan, India, any Africa, you know, we could literally send dollarium transactions and exchanges to these places because many of them never went off of their system. That's why there was such, you know, stuff going on.
And
crazy.
The piggyback and the jack, because he's backed by gold and silver, honey.
Yes. Yes, they stayed on gold and silver. And I'll tell you this just for general purposes. Gold and silver, the gold standard never left our land. It's just that there were some of us who said, okay, we're going to, you know, we're going to sleep. And then when we wake back up, we'll just, you know, activate the gold standard for us. That's really all we're doing is activating it for us.
The prophet told us. The prophet told us what to do. He said, we tell you everything, you go back to sleep. That's all we're doing.
We're completely and totally making it so that we never go back to sleep. That's correct. That is correct.
Yeah, that's you're awake now. Thanks for Sister Light, the light of the world, girl.
And all Moors. So
in general.
Yes, Chitali.
I have a question. Do we need to do a new coinage act for our dollarium? Because I've been studying it, and it the coinage act, from what I understand so far, is that they break down how much coins weigh and what they look like, stuff like that. So,
yeah.
So I was wondering if we should do one for our Moorish dollarium so they can know what, you know, what we officially say dollarium is supposed to look like.
We did the 1792 Coinage Act because, you know, I was just doing things as the ancestors led us to do it because it needed to be done, and I did the 1792 Coinage Act. What it does is it breaks down the denomination of the coinage. It talks about all of that. And we redid it and put it on the public record when we were first introducing dollarium. But we need to take another look at it, Empress, because I know that it's not a coincidence that you're looking at that again. So that means we need to look at it again and put a new one on the public record. Yeah, I agree. It talks about the denominations. It talks about the weight and measures of the denominations. What else does it talk about?
What kind of design was on? I think I haven't studied all the way, but that's I thought they said that too.
It might say that too. I saw. I looked at what was there and I did what we've been doing. Take it, put it on Moorish government letterhead, and then look through it and change whatever needs to be changed. For example, when I was studying that act, I was looking at the word denomination because that word is in there, the word denomination. Denomination means to not name the nation. Okay, or it could mean, yeah, see, nom, like nom de jure, N-O-M, that's name. That's the word name, nom de jure. To denominate something, you know, I did the study on that word, so we changed the spelling of it. And now that we have taken control of our own capitalism, we can put things in common English again, but it has to be issued by our government to be valid, to mean what we say it means. So we've overcome corporate fraudulent English. We have overcome that. So where the Coinage Act of 1792 is concerned, I'm all for revisiting everything that we've done and fine-tuning. Speaking of fine-tuning, really quickly, and then we can bring this. We can start looking at adjourning until next week. Justice, the AMPAC government, Justice J. Jermaine Bay, he did a video yesterday. I believe it was either yesterday or the day before yesterday, on the Act of Algiers Chapter 3, which is a banking chapter. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link to that video in the chat, and I'll also put it under the under this video on YouTube at Like to Jure Bay, a link to his video, because it's a great video. And more, I'm so excited because now other Moorish states and nations are talking about minting their own money.
Yes, they are. Thanks to you, Sister Light.
And you know what? I thank our ancestors for bringing all of this forward, because we needed to see it. And really, we need to know that we have the authority to do it. You know, we absolutely, and it must be honored. Say again, Empress?
Yeah.
Say again.
You can unlock the meeting. I think.
Justice Frank, hold on a minute. What you say, Empress?
Unlock the meeting real quick. Okay.
That's right. Let him finish. It's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Justice Frank. I'm sorry.
Unlock the meeting real quick. I
believe in them.
I know you did a good job. I ain't heard it from my Ariana all night, but just unlock me 1 second, because I lost you there. That's why I called out. I'm tired of just losing you there. That's all. It's interesting. I knew you get ready to end, but yeah, like a second wait, let's say bye. I was on video.
Okay. So Justice Frank, can we hear what the Empress was saying, please?
Oh, please. Who you talking about?
Okay. Go ahead, Empress.
Love you, Justice Frank.
Yes, we do love him.
I've been frustrated and so I just feel like either we believe in ourselves or we believe in foreigners. And I see them so many times are asking for the Moors to go out and bring foreigners' scripts back. That means you spend your days and your hours collecting theirs, and we should be spending our time on this type of work. Just imagine if all of us had turned to ourselves and our own system, this thing would be done, and it'd be clean, and with nobody hurt, and we have all the needs, and everyone else in our nation, we all have all of our needs met. Anyway, I just need to say that because I've been really frustrated being asked to go out and get, someone else's, scripts to get the things that belongs to me anyway. It just seems weird, or to the Moors.
Yes.
And so anyway,
Yes, Empress, that is just, yes, absolutely. I'm just glad that we have other Moors who are who get it. They get it. And Moors, and I won't even say that we're the first, because there are other Moors who were printing money. I think that there was we have just determined in our hearts that it was not going to be something proprietary that we keep to ourselves. We wanted to put it out there and have, because we know the power in our numbers. There's absolute power in our strength is in our, and so the more of us that that do this, the better. The more of us that know that we have the authority to print our own money. Islam. Yes, Islam.
I wanted to answer the question in the chat. It said, how do we transfer money from our private bank to a commercial bank? We had talked about this earlier some times ago in past videos about affidavits, and because the banks have all been leaned, so when doing banking with commercial banks, you send them an affidavit. And then we also went over some words and documents that states that's how other people from other countries abroad and things, when they come to any other place, they have their banks write an affidavit of credit, and so when they come here, they sit down with the bankers and they submit their affidavit of credit, and that's what's put in the transaction of their account. So it's the same way of halal banking. It's just, you know, you're issuing your affidavit of credit to their commercial bank with, you know, your flag and your seals and all these different things. It has to be nation to nation now, too.
Yes, yes, yes. And the money system has to be, it can't be a fiat money system trying to talk to a living gold money system. You know, it has to be other national. So there are other nations that have a national currency that that we, you know, we can do exchanges with them. You know, because their money is gold backed, just like ours is. So what we're going to do in the next call, and it'll probably be Thursday, this next Thursday, is I'm going to, and I should have it finished by then. We're going to show you exactly how and where specifically the resources that back the dollarium. We're going to point you to it, and you'll be able to go there and say, this backs the dollarium. These minerals back the dollarium. This land, this gold, there's the gold is right there, it backs the dollarium. We have the ability to do that, and I've been working on it. You know, there are several things that we're working on at this time. It's all coming so quickly. It's coming quick because it has to, because that other thing is done. And so we're going to show show you step by step how to do that. The same way we're walking through each of the processes that we're doing even as we speak. Having the constitutions on the public record is a huge part of being able to point to these are the resources that back the dollarium. And then I believe I had spoken about this on our last call, but I'll go ahead and briefly introduce. Here, let me. Well, we'll talk about that later because it's going to be it'll take at least a half hour, and we've already been here for 2 hours and a half already. So what we will do is we will adjourn here at this time, and then we'll meet again on Thursday. So we're not going to have our Sunday call this coming Sunday, but we will have our Thursday call this coming Thursday. I'm trying to get documentation and paper ready, affidavits ready, and demonstrations ready to show you the next steps in manifesting the vast estate, okay, and in the viability of the dollarium and our banking system and all of that. Listen, we have this wrapped up, Moors. We got it wrapped up. We need as many Moors as possible to continue putting your documentation, the red documents, on the public record. That is a must. It's important. It's very important that the more of us who proclaim that we are the Savior on the public record, because the dollarium is a strength issue too, where our strength is in our numbers. We have the numbers we need. I'll say that. I know that for sure. But we have to continue putting the steps in place according to 2 Timothy 2:5. He who knows the rules wears the crown. We have it. We have it. The principles and the processes that need to be done in order to continue to manifest the commercial viability of our money and our banking system. So with that being said,
we love you. Yep, Justice Frank. We love you, girl.
Go ahead.
You don't have to be dating like that now.
Thank you, Justice Frank. Hold on, Justice Frank. Will you let the Empress talk?
I'm going to shut up. I ain't going to talk to you. I ain't say nothing.
Okay.
I just listen. I just want to do it.
Go ahead, Empress.
I've been studying about coins. And so they say that coins are made by sovereign. If it's not made by a sovereign, it's called round. And so they said, and so there have been a lot of commemorative coins being made in gold and silver, and they put the eagle on there and all that, but it cannot be used as money. It can look exactly like a gold coin, but it cannot be used as money because it's not made by a sovereign government. So, and then they say that you really need to learn what you're buying when you wanna collect these coins, because they said even though it's got the eagle on, they could put their president on there. They could do all that to make it attractive, but they said that price, that value may go down. It's likely to go down. You were the one who was attracted to it because it had the eagle on it and all that kind of stuff. But when you buy it from somebody, you most likely are, if you want your money back, you're most likely going to have to sell it back to that dealer who you bought it from at a lower price because it has no value to anybody else. It's made of gold, but it has no value because it was not minted by a sovereign. So that what we're doing is here. Nobody can circulate that gold and use it to buy a loaf of bread. They can't use it. They can buy it for commemorative, as souvenirs. And it's real gold, it's real silver. But that's all it is because it's not minted by a sovereign. And so that's what coinage is. A coinage is something that's made by a sovereign. If it's not minted by us, it's called a round. So all those coins and stuff like that that's been circling out there today, those are round.
Yes, round. R-O-U-N-D. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And they're supposed to put a C or a P on the coins to show that it's a copy, or I forgot what the P means. But I see they haven't been doing that. But yeah, our stuff, we need to circulate it out there. We have to, because that's our responsibility. We're the only ones, like the Constitution says about, we're the only ones that can make coins to settle debt. It's the sovereign.
Yep. Yes. Empress. That's why, and we took some were jabbing at us for a minute there, saying that about gold and silver, but they can't even take what they got down to the grocery store and get a loaf of bread. They won't accept it down there. They won't accept it.
And that's why I was asking about the Coinage Act, to clarify that this is coming from us. This is an act, it's a coin that's coming from us, is being minted from us, so that when they see it, they know to accept it. But I haven't studied that all the way to see if that's necessary. But it came to mind because I'm like, they got all these commemorative coins and they can't do nothing but pass it around like baseball cards. That's all they can do.
That's it. And Empress, I'll say this, I'm not even sure that stuff that they got, they so counterfeit about everything that I'm not even sure that that's real silver and gold that they're passing around. I'm just going to be honest. I don't think it is.
I think it is.
No, it's not.
I think it's but it's still, it's the ironic thing for me is that it's worthless unless it's made by us. It could be the purest of gold. It could be the purest of gold. That ain't the point. The point is it got to be minted by a sovereign government in order for it to be considered money.
Yes, 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 that is
you
true.
You the gold, you the silver, you the bank. You the gold, you the silver, you the bank.
Yeah.
You look the word sovereign up and it's going to say coin. Or look the word coin up, it's going to say sovereign.
Yeah, and that's what they mean. That's the only reason why it's called coin. If it's not made by us, it's called a round. You can't even call it coin. You don't even fix your mouth and say coin because it's not.
That's y'all. That's
well,
y'all
there it is. There's the truth right there. That's the truth, and that's why we took a few jabs from people saying that ain't real money. It is if we say it is because we sovereign. You know, right. So now all we have to do is just keep going. Period. Just keep moving forward. Keep putting the things on the public record. Doing the things that we need to do because the ancestors are giving us the keys. We have the keys already. We just need to continue keeping clear energy. That's why I say we don't need to be mad at them subjects. Don't be mad at them. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. And what does that Constitution say about nobody can make coin?
Yes.
They saying if you ain't sovereign, you can't make coin.
There it is.
Nobody can do it.
There it is.
There it is.
and then us that make the coin, we must be a sovereign state to even do it. And we must be federal.
Yes.
And we're both.
Yeah.
So that's what the state constitutions are all about.
Yeah.
That's what the state constitution is all about.
Like you all. I'm justice. I'm your protector, and I'm gonna do my job. I got you.
Justice Frank, we love you so much. I'm so glad you're here. So the states are at one point. Each of the states was minting their own money, and they were trading between each other. They had agreements to honor each other's money based on the resources in the state.
Islam, that's probably where honor all cards came from as well. Because if you had to honor all monies back in the day, you have to now transfer that to the honors all cards.
Yes, because it's made by a sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
And you honor. You the honor. You it. That's it.
So those who put those constitutions on public record, we're just all. You all have no idea what joy that gives me that we have done that as the state and as the federal and as the people, because it solidifies our ability to do commerce the way we want to do it. So let's keep going. We ain't no stopping us. Period. And we're gonna just keep moving forward. With that being said,
y'all all profit. That being said, man, I'm so proud of y'all.
I see something in the chat here that I'm gonna speak about it briefly. It says here in the chat. It says, "This is all wonderful to hear, but wondering, is there anyone not using fiat but dollarium to eat, put gas in their cars, and paying their bills? If so, please explain to me how to do so." You're not really paying bills with the fiat either. That's why they keep coming at you. Because you're not really paying anything.
Social lightning. The woman is the money.
Let me speak on this. All right.
Yeah.
You're not really paying anything. That's why you're feeling the pressure you're feeling. And we get it, just nobility. We get it. You're not going to get out from under debt as long as you continue to be their court. I'm not using fiat. I use sovereign credit. What's the difference? The difference is that I have done a termination of all corporate contracts on the bank account, and the bank account is not moving fiat back and forth anymore. It's moving sovereign credits as issued by the sovereign. Okay? Now, the video. Oh, yes. Empress, let me make sure that I get that too. Empress Angel has put something in the chat for you to watch, Nobility, that put that question in there, because it's only a matter of time before what you're saying manifests. But see, we need to be moving toward producing, because we can't just print a bunch of money and not produce anything to exchange. Where food and gas and bills, what bills? You know, that's what I feel what you're saying. I feel what you're saying, Nobility, but you're not paying either. Even if you gave them fiat, you're still not paying. That's how come you don't get a title for the stuff. We have to come out of that. So this is what we are doing, Justice. What we're doing is rebutting the bills properly. Okay? We're rebutting the bills properly. And as we rebut the bills properly, we are demonstrating our sovereign status where all of that is concerned. But again, when you talk about gas in cars, is it a car or is it a conveyance? And is the conveyance
not the law
jurisdiction? And then have you printed up the means by which to put gas in the conveyance? Because see, that's a merchant card action that needs to be demonstrated. Have you done that demonstration? Because you're saying, is anyone doing that? Have you done the demonstration? Lawfully. Have you demonstrated to those that are custodians of the gas, custodians in the office of? Have you done the demonstration where you take your merchant card and you send it, and they're in that, the custodians are there, and you say to them that your card is to be honored when you show it?
Do you know you're in law?
And you don't have to answer that because I already know the answer. I knew that, yeah, you answered it. I know that that hasn't been done. So, Moors, we have to prepare to make that transition. It's valid. What you're saying, Justice Akil, is valid. But you can't expect it to manifest if you don't demonstrate it. Merchant cards is a new, ancient precept. Our own money. This is the first time. Just a minute, Justice Frank. Just a minute, please. We want to honor the floor. Please honor the floor. Okay. So now. Yeah. Thank you. Justice Frank, do you mind? Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So we need to make that demonstration manifest. More, we can't say is someone doing that. No, you do it. You do it. This is the first time in our life that we're even talking about, we didn't even know we could make our own money. This is the first time in our lives in this dimension that we're manifesting and knowing that we can print our own money. So the demonstrations have to be done, Justice Akil. Don't sit and expect somebody else to say, hey, I did that and it worked. You do it. Because it's your responsibility. It's your estate. You do it. I'm having to do it with the things that I have, and the results look a certain way, and I'm seeing why they look a certain way. I'm having success, but it's in some areas it's 100% success. In other areas it's partial success because there's more that needs to be done. And so what we're doing is listening to the ancestral energies, looking at the law and saying, okay, how do we get the rest of this? How do we get the rest of this? I'll use the example of the building down the street. We did the POW demonstration, and by the time we were out of there, they had vacated because it wasn't their building. It was properly claimed. So we did that part correct. Then there are other things that needed to be done in order for us to go in and use the building. But there were some things we didn't have just yet. So we needed to continue studying and demonstrating to get those precepts. So if you're waiting for something to fall in your lap because somebody else did it, I would say not do that. I would say go ahead and you do the demonstration for your estate, where Delarium is concerned and where merchant cards is concerned. Because the minute you do the demonstration, and this is why we say this, we know this from personal experience repeatedly. When you do the demonstration, the ancestors are going to show you. If there's anything missing, they'll show you. And then you put that piece in place. Just like we're demonstrating merchant card, Hawala came, and the ancestors said, okay, this is the way we did things. This is what the ancestors were saying when they showed us that. They said, this is the way we do things. So put it out there so that it can manifest. Put it out there on the public record so it can manifest. And now we see. So now we have to feed ourselves because we are sovereign too. So we have to manifest that. Because see, you're talking about the grocery store, you're talking about conveyances, you're talking about bills. Bills, we rebut those. We rebut them. And then for those that have the sovereign credits to keep going with bills, keep going, but after a while, they're not even going to work. When I say they're not going to work, I mean fiat is not going to work. Okay? So, because for some, they've paid bills, quote unquote, and still can't keep the stuff, can't stay in the house, can't keep the service because the fiat system is finished.
Islam.
Islam.
I have one more thing. Okay, so they say there's no representation without no taxation without representation.
Representation.
And, okay, so my question was, okay, so now when we start, as we start leading the corporations and everything, and giving sovereign credit for the custodians to continue on, assisting us, how are they? What kind of protection do they get when they start coming under us, under our authority? Because I'm using that no taxation without representation. Like what kind of protection do subjects get under us?
So they get constitutional
representation.
They get constitutional protection.
Oh.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Yeah, that's what the Constitution is for, and that's what they're using even to stop doing the things that they've been doing.
Yes, they are.
And they want that constitutional protection because if they don't have that, what do they have here on this land? And see, the thing is, we're not their problem. It's other quote unquote nations that are saying that if the Moors aren't going to stand up, we're not going to let y'all have another run at it. So they're saying, because our brothers from the East are saying, hybrids, y'all don't get another chance. We're here to help them. So they need protection from that. Okay? So with regard to your demonstrations, do the demonstrations yourselves. I have to do them. We all have to do them because we are who we are, and there's no turning back from that. We know. When we know better, we do better. Sending me your demonstrations, you don't have to do that. Just do them. Just do them. Okay? Just be yourself on your land. That's the point that needs to be made clear is we all need to be ourselves, because guess what? This is it right here. This is it. There's nothing to go back to. Nothing to go back to.
Islam.
Those bridges are done because they've never really existed. There's nothing to go back to. Islam.
I was doing some searching because I heard something on the radio, on the I think it was the Breakfast Club I was listening to, and they were talking about a social credit system that China has put in place for their people, and that is coming to the corporate U.S. So there's no telling how people are going to be doing anything going forward, and they're probably going to spring that on to people without giving them any kind of education on how it works or anything. So we're worrying about paying this and that, but, you know, that system's finished, and we have no idea what they're putting in place right now.
See, Empress, thank you for that, because, see, some are looking for, you know, we have to be ourselves, because what's coming for those who refuse to be themselves is ugly. It's ugly. But by the same token, Moors, Rome was not built in a day. So this time, I appreciate it so much because we have time to demonstrate who we are and then look at the demonstration and see, okay, this part worked. What are we missing here? Because then we look again and we say, okay, let's put this with it. Okay? Our ancestors will preserve us while we're going through this process. The only time we have any issues, Morris, and this is just for those who need to know, energetically, we must keep our energy clear so that we don't start looking outside of ourselves for the answers. The answers come from within each one of us. Okay? And when our energy is clear, we'll get the answers we need in order to get to the next steps to continue freeing ourselves. If you're looking for an easy, you know, listen, the reason we're here was because that other stuff wasn't easy. It was getting tight and tough. Policy enforcers pulling folks over and just throwing them in jail for no reason. All of that. People being thrown out for no reason. All of that. Now, if you're going to complain, complain about that. If you're going to get frustrated about that. And then clear that energy so we can move forward, because we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. We're not. Clear the energy. Clear it so that you can see and hear from the ancestors. Clear it. If you're afraid or fearful to demonstrate, clear that too. If you have a problem with sincerity, clear that too. If you're looking for a savior other than yourself, clear that too. See, we already won. It's been won a long time ago. The systems that we're uncovering have been in place. And when we demonstrate them, the ancestors will hold back and restrain any of the other stuff. People talking about bills, you got to know you don't have any. Demonstrate that, and the ancestors will hold back anything that is not what you want it to be. They'll hold that back, and I'll prove that with the ancient writings. The ancient writings say, and you can Google this that I'm about to say, and you in the ancient writing that says it will come up. It's in the Biblioheliotext. It says, 1,000 will fall at thy hand, and 10,000 at thy right side, but it will not come nigh thee. And let me just make sure I'm stating that correctly. But I know I'm really close with that.
Yes, you're right. You're correct.
Yes, yes. 1,000 will fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it will not come nigh thee. Okay. When we clear our energy, the ancestors automatically put that in place, put those types of protections in place. Okay? 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand. What is the right hand, Moors? The right hand is the right red thumbprint and your affidavit, your autograph.
Seal.
Justice Akil, I'm dealing with the cell phone piece too. I'm surprised. I mean, I'll just say this about the cell phone piece. The basic cell phone system is working for me, but all of the extras are not. What does that tell me? That tells me that all of the extras were covered by corporate commerce. I'm not mad. Huh?
Sounds like it was hypothecation.
It was hypothecation. It absolutely was. I'm not mad about that. My phone, I'll tell you this, since we did the cell phone demonstration, my phone, some people can get text through and others cannot. What else? Most of the calls are not coming through, but I see messages coming through. I can use apps, you know, WhatsApp and all of that, so I call with that. I use that to call and talk to people with and send messages back and forth. I said all of that to say this, that I'm not even mad about that. Why? Because I know there's another piece, another demonstration, another side to that demonstration that has to be done. And that's what I'm preparing for now. The ancestors showed it to me. Had they showed it to me in the beginning, I probably would have been a little scared. But I'm not, because I know that it's the next logical step. And they will do the same thing for you and show you what you need to do next too. Just don't freak out when things don't happen the way you think they should. Demonstrate. And then look at the demonstration, look at the results of it, and then say, okay, this is what I need to do next. And sometimes those things happen to see if you're going to freak out about it. Just to see, are you going to get your energy all out of whack? I remember when I first did the banking demonstration, where I did the court action on the social security number and the nom de jure as issued by them, by the courts. The next day, the bank account was frozen. I told you all about this. And then over a 2-week period, it
unfroze it.
It began operating properly then.
Fact.
Or operating the way it was set up to operate. So, listen, that was just to see if I was going to freak out about it, I'm sure. And I didn't.
Like you never lied. You never lied. You never lied.
No, I'm going to do the demonstration. We're going to demonstrate, and whatever that outcome is, we're determined that we're going to do what our ancestors sent us here to do. We know that everything belongs to us, and that's a key right there. Just know that the resources are ours. It's just a matter of time, but we must put the processes in place to access them.
She's correct, y'all. And I'm going to pay the butt. I feel her. She's not lying, y'all.
Don't freak out about the cell phone piece, Justice Akil. Don't freak out about that. Just keep going with what you're doing. Keep going.
Why would she lie to you? That's number one. You got no reason for that.
To demonstrate. And some people may have called and they keep getting the machine and they think that I'm ignoring them. I thought about all of that, but I said, ancestors, you're going to have to deal with that. That's y'all's problem, not mine. And
I'm 17 years old. I'm the ancestor.
I use the apps and things like that to call out. And
she's not lying, y'all. Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention.
But don't freak out. Don't freak out. Let's keep going.
A good girl.
This must happen.
She can't help herself. She loves y'all. That's what our problem is. She loves you.
This must happen. We must do this. We have to. We don't have a choice. Islam nobility.
Agreed. And also, I think one of the most important components that are missing is to continue to study law. Once you know the law and you've internalized it, then you know you just have to keep putting these documents out there. You get a negative reaction, you keep going. You don't stop. You keep banging at that door.
Yes.
Excuse me for the graphic.
Yes.
Feel it open.
Yes.
This is ours. I get it. I study every day. There is a day that goes by I don't study.
Yeah.
I have other obstacles, that get in my way, but that's only temporary, all of it.
Yes. Before I do any demonstration, I clear my energy and I say, ancestors, I'm going to do this because I know that I'm honoring you all when I do it, and whatever the outcome is going to be for our good. And then I move forward. Because we're not playing games. This is not a cute contest. We want our estate. It's ours. It's here. We have it. All we have to do is keep moving. Keep moving forward. Period. And I'm not going to make myself uncomfortable by focusing on, oh, this didn't do is what I wanted to do. I can't. My phone hasn't rang in 2 weeks. Okay, the ancestors we're still talking. Everyone is still communicating. I've not lost communication because we have other methodologies, and it works to a degree because there's still some more of the taking of the resource that we have to do. We're not naive about that. Those hybrids in the 1920s and 30s and the 1800s was doing everything, including losing their lives trying to get their hands on what they came here for. But we worried about a cell phone. No, we're not going to do that. No. No, we're not. We're going to demonstrate who we are, period. And we're going to be smart about it. We're going to be intelligent about it. We're going to let the ancestral energies lead us accordingly so that we, so that we're competent and that we, that we continue moving according to how we're led by our ancestors and the law that we study. All we have to do is, if you want to know where you're going, look at where you've been, where you come from. We're not going to stop. That's you know, I think that's clear. That's clear. You know, and we're not going to make ourselves miserable by complaining the whole time. See, the children of Israel wanted to get out of Egypt so badly. And then they got out there in that wilderness among all that nature that they didn't have access to before, and they start complaining.
And all that
yes.
all that time on their hands.
Yes. Where they could have been building, pulling the resources, getting their stuff together. They had the whole land all to themselves. Nobody cracking a whip on them or anything.
They was trying to go back.
And some of them was talking about a meal and how they missed some cow and some pigs.
Like eating lobster. They was eating noodles there. They was talking like they was eating lobster.
They had to hurry up and eat it before it was time to get out there and make them bricks. No, we're not going to make ourselves miserable by complaining. We're going to take advantage of what we have. Full advantage. And for those that are complaining, just you still got to come. We're not leaving you. You still got to come. So you might as well just sit down and complain as long as you want to do that. Take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to do that. Go ahead and do it. Get it out of your system. And then you're going to have to get up and come on. Because we out of it. It's a wrap. Ain't nothing to go back to. Huh?
And this phrase that basically fiat is the housing, and it's the and you know and the things that we pay for, like car notes and stuff like that. But right now I don't have a car note, not dealing with housing payment, and once this is absolutely clear, all I need is some food, some data, so I can be, you know, banging out some leads and being on my computer, and then I want my gym membership and maybe a gas station that I can go to. I don't really need much. What really is driving us out here doing all these, you know, hours at the plantation is all that excess that we don't even really need it, you know?
Well, here's the thing, Ifris. The access belongs to us too.
Yeah.
And that's the demonstration. That's where what we're working on now is manifesting that, and then showing how that happens. Now, I'll say this about that. I know that that we have to be in the leader seat in terms of the processes. When I say the leader seat, I'm talking about all of us. We have to be in the CEO seat in order to access the resources and the extras that you're talking about. The abundance. We have to be in the CEO seat. That's going to mean properly stating, like we said, if it's about employment or anything like that, no matter where you go, you're the head of the company anyway. You're the head of the resources, and you get to determine how they work. So you need to, you're going to have to be yourself, and I'll show you what I'm doing even with regard to that, because the ancestors have said that we got to demonstrate everything. We have to demonstrate. So I just told the ancestors, just point the way where I'm supposed to go. What just show me I'm there, you know. And in the interim, like I was saying about the cell phone, it's not working optimally like it was presented. But who the heck cares when we're talking about this whole vast estate? And because I put that attitude, the ancestors said, okay, go that way. And you all that stuff Cell phones is just the beginning. We talking spaceships. We talking all the conveyances ever, all the domiciles ever, all the food ever. When you're talking about doing things the way our ancestors did it, this stuff belongs to us. This stuff
Please,
is
man, Jack.
Do you think one cell phone is going to stop the whole thing from manifesting? Oh, give me a break. No, it's not. No.
Man, Jack.
You know, when we run into a little bit of an issue, we want to start complaining. Don't do that more to yourself. Because, see, just like in the story of Esther, in the Bibliotheliotech and the ancient writings, because Esther was one of us, just like her uncle told her, because Yeshua, or the Spirit had told him, said, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. If we decided that we didn't want to do this, somebody else is going to do it. But those who decide not to do it, their house is going to suffer. And if you think a little bump in the road is some suffering, just look that way back there where you came from and see how it's because it's not going to get any better there. It's not going to get any better there. We have to do this because there's so much more that's waiting for us. The whole earth is looking at us going, Moors, y'all got to see. It's right there. You trying to get past a paper tiger. A paper tiger. They're all looking like, look at all that estate, and they're complaining because the paper tiger then threw some paper at them today. No, we're not going out like that. We're not going out like that. We're not going out at all. We're going to be right here. So, if you're going to complain, go ahead and do it. Just do it over there. And then, come on, get back up, let's go. We've been in the POW camp, so, you know, yes, Islam embrace.
I see entities that are chopping at the bit to take this place. So if the Moors don't stand up, there are others that will fill the hole, and that's what nature does. So
yes.
We have to do this.
Yes, nature abhors a vacuum. A vacuum is an empty space that has energy in it and no one's using it. And we already know that the foreign energies that were previously looking like they had control of our state don't have it. There's it's not a space there anymore because we're feeling that. So I'm not giving up my spot. I'm not giving up my spot for whoever the ancestors would use if I chose not to. That's not even a thing. It's not gonna happen. Are you giving up your spot? Ask yourself that. Is a little bump in the road worth it? Is a bump in the road worth it? No, it's not. Nope. No way. I'm with you, Justice Akil. No way. No way. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. We got this. So, keep doing the demonstrations that you're doing and watch the ancestors give you the keys. Watch. You got them already. You just don't recognize it yet. But you got them already. You got the keys. With that being said, we will adjourn here. You know what, Justice Akil, I love you so much. Justice Frank, I love you too. Y'all know that. And you have every right to
I'm afraid of my mouth. I'm scared of my mouth while I do music. I love women.
Yeah.
I just happen not to be gay. Yeah. I'm scared to talk, though.
Yes. You know what, Justice Frank? You keep on talking here. We just glad we love your presence. Your energy is amazing.
But look, I know where all these girls, especially Carlita, kind of like Carlita,
yes, Justice Akil, you know that. You know that. And that goes for all the more. We have to listen, we're getting through this. We're getting through this. We're getting through it. And not only getting through it.
It's a wrap. You know it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
I am so proud of you, though.
Thank you.
Too. Only because I'm 72 years old. If I was really young, but I still feel like I'm 15. I don't know. I ain't all 72. I just had to keep over it. Thank God for accountable.
Yes, Islam. So we'll adjourn here, because Justice Frank could talk another 30 minutes, and I'm not going to let him do that unless it's with that being said.
Please don't mute it. Let me do this. Mute it. That's me.
Islam, we love you. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Islam.
Grand rising to the Lord.
Islam.
Long live the empire. What did you want to by the way?
Grand rising.
Grand rising, Islam.
Postmaster General.
Justice Akil, you know I'm a people.
I mean, Postmaster. You're Secretary of State, not
And when I come on that side, we all go party, okay? So let's get that straight. I'm coming over to the east side of Amex, and we're going to all party together. Islam.
Let me pay for it. I got the gold in. I got GPS on. Yep, I got you. You don't have to pay a dime. I got you.
That's enough. That's enough for us. We're there. Islam.
I swear to God, I got enough money too. You know I really did. Even the fee.